What would you do if a bus driver dumped you and your two toddlers onto a frozen highway in the dead of night? If, minutes later, a semi lost control on black ice and slid toward you so close you could feel the heat of its headlights on your skin? And what if the only person who stopped was a stranger whose eyes held nothing but concern? A man you'd later find out wasn't just another driver, but someone powerful enough to alter the course of your life? For Jenna Carter, that night didn't just terrify her. It split her world clean in two. The life before the highway and everything that followed. Out. Now. The driver's voice cracked through the bus like a whip. Cold, impatient, final. The doors hissed open, and before Jenna could even draw a steady breath, much less summon courage, she and her daughters were shoved out onto the shoulder of a deserted highway. The winter wind hit her like a slap, ripping the warmth from her lungs. Behind her, the doors clamped shut with a metallic thud that sounded, to Jenna, like a verdict. For a heartbeat she could only stand there, stunned, watching the red tail lights smear through the fog before vanishing into the dark. It felt as if the night had swallowed the bus whole and decided she and her girls no longer belonged to the same world. She clutched her daughters to her as if she could fuse them into her chest. Emma and Chloe, just shy of 2, pressed their faces into her coat with soft, broken whimpers. Damp curls stuck to their cheeks. Their tiny fingers, stiff with cold, dug into her jacket like it was the only steady thing left. "Mommy," Emma whispered, voice shaking. Jenna forced a smile she didn't feel. "It's okay, baby. I've got you." The lie tasted metallic on her tongue. Her pockets were empty. The few dollars she'd had were gone. Her credit cards had been frozen by her ex-husband, Brandon Cole, only hours earlier. He'd always used money like a leash, and today he'd yanked it tight. Now she stood on the side of a highway in the freezing dark, with 2 toddlers and no backup plan. Cars tore by, spraying dirty slush that stung her skin. Headlights swept over them and disappeared, white streaks fading like ghosts that had already decided not to look back. No one slowed. No window rolled down. The world had decided she and her girls were invisible. Jenna pulled her coat more tightly around the twins and edged farther from the road. Just in time. An 18-wheeler burst out of the fog around a curve, tires screaming on black ice. The truck fishtailed, the trailer swinging like a pendulum straight toward them. Its high beams erased the night. "No." The scream ripped out of her before thought could form. She hurled herself sideways, dragging both girls with her. They crashed into the icy gravel. The semi thundered past, missing them by inches. The blast of displaced air punched the breath from her lungs. Heart pounding, she curled her body over her daughters, making herself a barrier between them and the world. Emma sobbed, jerky little hiccups shuddering through her tiny frame. Chloe didn't make a sound. She buried her fists into Jenna's coat and clung like someone hanging off a ledge. Then Jenna heard it. A small, strained wheeze. Chloe's breaths came too fast, too shallow, too tight. No. Not now. Not here. Cold had triggered bronchial spasms once before. That episode had been frightening. This sounded worse. Much worse. Jenna lifted Chloe higher, rubbing small circles over her chest, trying to coax warmth into her lungs. "Breathe, sweetheart. Mommy's here. Stay with me." Chloe's lips were paling. Her little chest fluttered beneath Jenna's hand, muscles working overtime just to pull in air. Panic sliced through Jenna so sharply her knees almost buckled. She needed help. Real help. There was nothing around them but wind and darkness. No buildings, no exits, no path, only 2 miles of dead black ribbon in either direction. Her throat burned as she screamed again. No words this time, only raw terror ripped straight from her chest. A light appeared in the distance. Not the quick sweep of another car about to fly by. Not the harsh glare of another truck. This one slowed. Headlights dipped. Engine noise softened. Tires crackled over frozen gravel as a black SUV rolled to a careful stop a short distance ahead. For a moment Jenna's heart hammered harder. A stranger. In the middle of nowhere. This could get worse. The driver's door opened. A tall man stepped out, long dark coat falling smoothly from his shoulders. His blondish hair caught the beams in a faint halo, and his eyes, clear, focused, filled with concern the moment they landed on the girls. He approached slowly, palms visible, every movement deliberate, like someone trying not to startle a frightened animal. "You're freezing," he said. His voice was low and steady, the kind of calm that could cut through chaos. Please tell me you're not stranded out here alone. Jenna's muscles locked. She curved her body over her daughter's again. Don't come closer, she warned, but her voice shook harder than the wind. I won't, he replied softly. He stopped several feet away and dropped to one knee, lowering himself to near eye level with the twins instead of towering over them. My name is Logan Hart, he said quietly. I'm not here to hurt you. I'm here because I couldn't drive past without stopping. He pulled off his gloves and held them out, not pushing them on her, just offering. Take these, he urged. She needs warmth now. His gaze flicked to Chloe, the one who was wheezing, and his expression tightened with alarm. Her breathing. Does she have asthma?
No, Jenna whispered, clutching Chloe closer.
Just cold. Too cold. She needs heat immediately. Logan rose in a fluid motion, the gentleness in him wrapped now in urgency. Come with me. My car's warm. There's a station a couple of miles up. I can get cocoa blankets, whatever she needs. Trust a stranger, or stay put and watch her child fight for every breath. Neither option felt safe. But Chloe's chest rose and fell faster. Emma's trembling grew worse as the wind tore through their thin clothes. The cold wasn't just cruel anymore. It was dangerous. In the end, the weather decided for her. Jenna gave the smallest, most terrified nod of her life. Logan moved at once. He grabbed her bags with a quick, efficient ease, not rough, not possessive, and swung the SUV's rear door open. Heat spilled out, carrying the scent of leather, engine warmth, and coffee. Put them inside, he said, voice steady. Hurry. With clumsy, numb fingers, Jenna lifted both girls into the back seat and fumbled with the buckles. She slid in beside them. Warmth hit her skin like salvation. Emma sagged into the seat almost instantly, halfway to sleep. Chloe's breathing stayed tight but began to slow as heat seeped into her chest. Logan shut the door carefully, jogged around, and slid into the driver's seat. The engine hummed as he eased back onto the road. Hold her upright, he said, checking Chloe in the rearview mirror. It'll help. Jenna obeyed, cradling her daughter upright, her cheek pressed against Chloe's forehead. Silent tears slid down her face. For the first time in an hour, hope flickered. The SUV glided through the fog like a moving shelter. The girls' breaths gradually synced with the low vibration of the engine. The numbness in Jenna's fingers faded. Her racing heart inched toward something like calm. When the terror finally released its hold enough for her to feel anything else, exhaustion crashed over her. She rested her head against the cold window, watching the strip of highway where they had almost died disappear into the dark behind them. She didn't know who this man was. She didn't know where the road would lead. She had no idea if he was safe. But she knew one thing. They were no longer alone on that endless, merciless highway. For tonight, that was enough. Up ahead, a gas station glowed like a tiny island in the dark. The kind of place nobody would glance at twice in daylight. Tonight, it might as well have been a fortress. Logan pulled into a spot near the entrance and turned to her. Stay here. Keep them warm, he said gently. I'll be quick. Before she could protest, he was out of the car, coat flaring behind him as he hurried inside. Through the windshield, Jenna watched him move. He didn't wander aisles, didn't hesitate. He went straight for what he wanted. Blankets, tiny socks, bottled water, snacks, something soft and fuzzy she couldn't see clearly until he neared the counter. He picked one, then another, then another, then a fourth, like he couldn't bear choosing just one. The cashier asked something. He nodded once, pulled out his wallet, and paid without glancing at the total, as if money simply didn't matter right now. A few minutes later, he jogged back to the SUV. A frigid gust slipped in before the doors sealed them back into warmth. All right, he murmured, settling behind the wheel. Let's make them comfortable. He handed Jenna 2 lidded cups of hot chocolate, small enough for little hands, then twisted to the back and shook out thick fleece blankets dotted with cartoon stars. Emma stirred first. Her eyes went round when she saw the gray plush bunny Logan set gently beside her. Chloe's breathing had steadied, the wheeze now a soft rasp. When Logan placed a pink bunny in her lap, something bright sparked behind her tired eyes. She hugged it to her immediately, fingers sinking into the fur as if it were magic. A tiny giggle slipped out, then another from Emma. Jenna hadn't heard that sound in what felt like forever. Her throat tightened. Why? She whispered, unable to finish the question. Why stop? Why help? Why be this kind? Logan eased the SUV back onto the highway, his gaze at the road. Because once, he said quietly, I needed someone to stop. And no one did. No drama. No self-pity. Just simple heavy truth. Jenna couldn't ask for more details. Her chest was too full of fear, of gratitude, of a raw, piercing relief. The car's warmth untangled the knots in her shoulders. Muscles honed by survival finally began to unclench. Chloe nestled closer, clutching her bunny. Emma rested her head on Jenna's arm. For the first time since leaving home, Jenna drew a full breath. She had no idea yet how much this night, this stranger, this stop would reshape her future. She only knew that without him, they might not have made it to morning. The SUV moved through the fog like a quiet sanctuary. Heat hummed safety. Color returned to the girl's cheeks. Chloe's breaths eased enough that Jenna stopped counting every rise and fall. She still didn't know who Logan really was. She didn't know what he wanted. But one thing was painfully clear. He had just saved them. The engine's steady rhythm lulled the twins toward sleep, bunnies tucked under their arms. Jenna leaned her forehead against the window, watching the miles slip by, carrying them farther from the place where terror almost won. Real peace would have to wait. Fluorescent lights flickered ahead, hovering at the edge of a dark town. An urgent care clinic sat there, windows glowing like a tired promise. Logan pulled into the lot and cut the engine. We'll have them checked, he said quietly. Just to be safe. Jenna nodded, but dread shivered through her. Clinics meant questions. Questions meant attention. Attention meant danger. Because attention was how Brandon always found her. Still, she gathered her girls and went inside. Warm air smelling of antiseptic and worn linoleum wrapped around them. It was a scent she knew too well from too many nights spent hiding injuries, disguising bruises she couldn't explain. A nurse led them to a small exam room and worked with efficient gentleness. She warmed the twins' fingers between her own, lifted their shirts to listen to their chests, murmured comforts until Emma relaxed against her. They're stable, she said at last. Mild hypothermia. Warm bath rest and they'll be okay. Jenna's knees felt weak. Thank you, she breathed. The nurse's gaze drifted to Jenna's wrists. Faded yellow, smudged green, fresh purple blooming along the bone. Old bruises layered over newer ones, like rings on a tree marking seasons of fear. Jenna tugged her sleeves down, but too late. The nurse's expression softened, not with pity, not with judgment, but with understanding. I'll be right back, she said quietly. Jenna's stomach dropped. No, wait, please. The nurse was gone. Jenna held her daughters tight, pulse roaring in her ears. Panic made her sloppy. Panic made her forget to hide. She knew what came next. A knock, a badge, questions she didn't want to answer. She was right. A few minutes later, a man in uniform stepped inside. Calm face, steady stance, badge shining under harsh light. Ma'am, he said, pulling a chair closer. I'm Officer Daniels. The clinic called. They thought you might need help. That word help hit her like a slap. People said help right before they took over. Before they explained what she should have done. Before they implied she wasn't enough. I'm fine, she whispered. Officer Daniels didn't argue. He didn't crowd her. He simply waited. Silence did what questions could not. A crack opened inside her. Words spilled out, thin at first, then rushing. She told him about Brandon. The financial chokehold. The threats. The frozen cards. The way he turned the courts into weapons. How his shadow followed even after she fled. How she hid cash in diaper bags. How she bought second-hand clothes and prayed the girls would sleep through their hunger. She told him what happened on the bus. The driver demanding more money. Her empty wallet. His anger. The way he'd thrown her and her toddlers into the cold like they were trash blocking his route. By the time the story emptied out, she felt scraped hollow. Officer Daniels took notes with quiet focus. When she finished, he looked up. You did the right thing, he said. Leaving. Protecting them. That takes a kind of strength most people never have to find. The words cut straight through her. She hardly knew how to hold them. When he stepped out to file his report, Jenna buried her face in her hands, crushed by exhaustion, shame, and fear. She expected silence. Instead, she heard Logan's voice. "This isn't your fault." He had been there the whole time, leaning against the wall, giving her space. Now he stepped closer, but not too close, his presence solid, unobtrusive. "What happened on that bus?" he said quietly. "And what came before it? It ends here." "I don't need charity," she snapped, the edge in her voice sharper than she intended. "I'm not offering it." He lowered himself so they were eye to eye, not towering over her, not invading, just meeting her where she sat. "What I'm offering is 48 hours, he said, voice steady. 2 days where you don't run. 2 days where the girls are warm. 2 days where you can breathe without looking over your shoulder. She swallowed hard. After that, you decide everything. Where to go. What to do. Whether you ever see me again. I won't push." Her hands shook. Her eyes burned. She looked at her daughters, cheeks rosy with warmth, clutching their bunnies as if they'd always had them. Survival alone wasn't enough anymore. The girls needed more than that. Tonight, only one person was offering them anything better. She gave a tiny nod. Relief flickered across his face, quiet and unassuming. "Let's get you somewhere safe," he said gently. He picked up her bags, opened the door and led the way out. This time the cold didn't bite quite as hard. Outside, dawn crept over Chicago in a gray-blue wash. The air felt heavy with both weariness and possibility. Jenna stood on the courthouse steps, the twins' small hands enveloped in hers. People rushed by, footsteps echoing against marble, voices bouncing off tall columns. Emma hummed to herself. Chloe dragged her bunny by one ear. They didn't understand where they were. They didn't know that today, a stranger in a robe would decide their fate. Logan waited a short distance behind, close enough to support her without crowding. Beside him walked Rachel Moore, the attorney he'd called the moment the clinic report was filed. Sharp eyes, confident stride, the aura of someone who could walk into any room and tilt the balance. She stopped in front of Jenna, her expression softening. "You ready?" she asked quietly. No mother could ever truly be ready to fight for her children in court. But Jenna nodded anyway. Inside, the courtroom felt colder than the January air. High ceiling, pale walls, a hush that swallowed even footsteps. A court aide led the girls to a small play area with blankets and markers. Jenna kissed each forehead and promised she'd be right there. Today, she wasn't just standing for herself. She was standing for them. Rachel squeezed her shoulder as they Saturday breathe, she murmured. Before Jenna could find her rhythm, the door opened. Brandon Cole walked in. Expensive coat, immaculate hair. Hands folded behind his back as if the room belonged to him. He didn't look at her first. His gaze went to the twins. His eyes narrowed, and a familiar chill crept up her spine. Then he turned to her. The smile he gave her was slow and polished. A smile that said, "You can't win without me." He took his seat beside his attorney, a man with slicked back hair, a too shiny tie, and the smug carriage of someone who thought empathy was a liability. The judge entered. "Court is now in session," she said, gavel tapping once. Brandon's attorney rose immediately. "Your Honor, we intend to show that Ms. Carter is unfit to care for her children." Jenna's stomach knotted. Due to repeated reckless behavior, unstable housing, and a lack of financial resources. My client, on the other hand, can provide a stable home, a successful career, and a safe environment. Rachel's jaw tightened. Jenna shrank inward. The attorney slid a stack of papers forward. Exhibit 1. Text messages in which Ms. Carter admits leaving the children alone for hours at a time. Jenna's breath caught. "What?" she whispered. "Those aren't mine." "They appear quite compelling," the attorney said smoothly. On the screen, messages flashed. "I need a break from them. I'm leaving them with food. I'll be back after midnight. They cry too much. I can't handle it." The words turned Jenna's stomach. She had never written anything like that. She would never even imagine abandoning them. But the shame hit anyway because the judge didn't know that. Then Brandon took the stand. He did what she dreaded most. He performed. His voice wavered just enough. He added a carefully timed sigh. Let his eyes glisten as if holding back tears. "I've always tried to support Jenna," he said. "But she gets overwhelmed. Sometimes she just shuts down, disappears emotionally. I'm worried for my girls. I want them safe. He's lying, Jenna whispered to Rachel. Every word. Let him, Rachel murmured back. He's building his own trap. I love my daughters more than anything, Brandon continued, dabbing at a dry eye. But I'm terrified she can't handle the stress. The judge's eyes narrowed. Not condemning, considering. And that terrified Jenna more than anger ever could. Doubt alone could cost her everything. Who would the court believe? The polished, wealthy father with a trembling voice? Or the bruised, exhausted mother? Then it was Rachel's turn. She rose with calm precision. Your Honor, the truth tells a very different story. She laid a flash drive on the clerk's desk. Exhibit A. Highway security footage from the night Ms. Carter and her children were forced off a bus. The screen flickered to life. There it was, undeniable. The bus pulling over. The driver yelling. Jenna stepping off with both toddlers. The doors shutting. The bus pulling away into the fog. The judge leaned forward. Exhibit B, Rachel continued. A signed police report from Officer Daniels, who interviewed Ms. Carter at an urgent care clinic. It includes medical photographs of injuries consistent with ongoing domestic abuse. Whispers swelled through the courtroom. Brandon's attorney stiffened. Exhibit C, she said. Bank statements confirming a pattern of financial control. Joint accounts emptied without consent. Cards frozen, spending monitored. She paused, then delivered the blow. Exhibit D, metadata from the supposed text messages Mr. Cole submitted. She looked directly at Brandon. They were created on a device that does not belong to Ms. Carter, 2 hours after she was documented at the clinic with her children. In plain terms, Your Honor, they are fabricated. Silence fell like a curtain. Color drained from Brandon's face. His attorney opened his mouth, then closed it again. The judge stared at him. Mr. Cole, do you understand the seriousness of falsifying evidence in a custody case? He swallowed. No words came. His silence was its own confession. The judge turned to Jenna. Miss Carter, she said, would you like to make a statement? Jenna stood. Her legs shook, but her voice did not. I didn't leave because I was irresponsible, she said. I left because I was afraid. Because I would rather sleep on the street with my girls than raise them in a home where fear lives in every room. Emma and Chloe glanced up from their bunnies, wide eyes locked on their mother. I may not have money, Jenna continued, but I love them, and I will never stop fighting for them. The judge held her gaze for a long moment. Custody remains with Miss Carter, she ruled. Effective immediately. A 6-month restraining order is issued against Mr. Cole, and the court will open an investigation into the fabricated evidence. The gavel struck like thunder. It was over. Jenna's knees nearly gave out. Rachel steadied her. Logan stepped closer, not touching, just anchoring her with his presence. She had won. That didn't mean the danger was gone. Outside the courtroom, as she stepped into the hall, Brandon moved to block her path. Fury seethed under his falsely calm expression. You think this is the end? He hissed. The money will run out. You'll crawl back. She flinched. Before she could retreat, a shadow slid between them. Logan. His voice was quiet but edged with steel. She won't crawl anywhere. Not now. Not ever. You don't own her future anymore. Officer Daniels appeared at once. Mr. Cole. Step back. You're already violating the restraining order. Brandon's jaw flexed. He hesitated, then stepped back. Not by choice, but because there was nothing left for him to grab onto. Jenna scooped her daughters into her arms, pressing her cheek to their warm faces. For the first time in years she felt truly free. Snow drifted gently as she walked out of the courthouse. Her hands still trembled with adrenaline, but the deep marrow-deep terror that had lived in her since leaving Brandon loosened its hold. Emma and Chloe skipped beside her, clutching their bunnies, blissfully unaware of the war just fought over them. Hope, fragile and new, returned. The universe, however, wasn't finished testing her. 2 days later, she was at her new job at Heartline Transit. Her first real chance in years. She was sorting delivery schedules when her phone buzzed. Oakview Little Learners Daycare. All the color drained from her face. She snatched up the call. "This is Jenna. Are the girls okay?" A too long pause. "Miss Carter," the voice said, straining for calm. "The girls are safe, but there's a man here claiming to be their father. We didn't let him in. Security's on the way." Her world tilted. She didn't need to hear his name. Brandon. Her pulse roared. She grabbed her coat and ran down the hall, feet pounding. Logan stepped out of a conference room just as she flew past. "Jenna, what happened?" "It's Brandon," she gasped. "He's at the daycare. Get in the car." They shot through city traffic, tires hissing on wet pavement. The city blurred into streaks of light and sound. "He won't take them," Logan said, voice firm. "Not today. Not ever." She couldn't stop shaking. Fear wasn't an idea. It was muscle memory, etched into every nerve. By the time they pulled up to the daycare, police lights were already flashing. Officer Daniels stood near the gate, talking to staff. A few feet away, pacing like an angry animal, was Brandon. The second he saw Jenna, he lunged toward the fence. "You're poisoning them against me," he shouted. "I have rights." "That's enough, Mr. Cole," Daniels said, holding up a hand. Brandon's voice turned harsher. "You think you can keep them from me? Without my money, she'll fall apart." Jenna flinched. Behind her, small voices cried out, "Mommy!" Emma and Chloe ran toward her, legs pumping. She dropped to her knees and pulled them into her arms, holding them as if she might never let go. "Did he scare you?" she whispered. They shook their heads but clung tighter. Logan stood just behind her, a solid, immovable presence. "Those are my daughters," Brandon roared. Something inside Jenna snapped into place. She stood still, shaking but no longer broken. "No," she said quietly. "They're our daughters. And you will never hurt them again." Officer Daniels moved in. "Mr. Cole, you're in violation of a restraining order. You're under arrest." Rage twisted Brandon's features. But this time rage wasn't enough. Handcuffs clicked shut around his wrists. He was led to the patrol car, shouting words that had once cut her to pieces. Now they bounced off her, blunt and harmless. When the cruiser pulled away, the daycare fell quiet. Jenna let out a ragged sob she hadn't realized she'd been holding. That night, the apartment Logan had arranged for them felt too still. The girls slept curled around their bunnies, breaths even and safe. Jenna sat on the couch, hands shaking uncontrollably, thoughts spinning. She believed she was free, strong. Today proved something more frightening. Fear didn't vanish just because danger left. It lingered. It whispered, "Run. Take the girls. Take the bunnies. Pack diapers and food. Disappear." She grabbed a duffel and began stuffing it with clothes, movement frantic. "Where are you going?" She spun. Logan stood in the doorway, not blocking it, not reaching for her. Just watching, eyes full of quiet understanding. "I can't stay," she whispered. "He keeps finding us. He won't stop." He stepped forward slowly. "If you run now, you're not running from him," he said. "You're running from the life you've started to build. From people who are finally trying to protect you." "I'm scared," she choked. "I know." His voice was soft. "So let me stand next to you. Not in front of you. Not instead of you. Just next to you." Tears slid down her face. For once, they weren't driven purely by fear, but by the fragile possibility of trust. Her fingers loosened. The duffel dropped to the floor. Weeks passed. Snow melted. Wind gentled. The city thawed. The girls started preschool and came home dusted in glitter and paint. Their laughter louder, freer. Jenna settled into her job at Heartline Transit and discovered she wasn't just capable. She excelled. And Logan stayed present. Not overbearing. Not controlling. Just steady. One Saturday he drove them down a quiet street lined with maples. The air smelled faintly of cinnamon from a nearby bakery. He pulled into the driveway of a small house with a pale blue front door. A sign stood in the yard. "Harbor Home Number 1000. "This place is beautiful," Jenna murmured. "Whose is it?" Logan took a breath. "It's yours," he said. "Yours and the girls. If you want it." She stared. "What?" He nodded toward the sign. 10 years ago, I started the Harbor Light Foundation. We build homes for families escaping abuse or homelessness. This is our 1,000th. His voice softened. I wanted it to be yours. Her hand flew to her mouth. You can't just. It's already done, he said gently. It's in a trust with your name. No one, not me, not Brandon, not the state, can take it from you. Her legs wobbled. He led her inside. Fresh paint scented the kitchen. Sunlight spilled across the living room floor. In the girls' room, 2 tiny beds waited beneath star-shaped lamps. Empty shelves stood ready for books and toys. Emma squealed and launched herself onto a bed.
Κλεσπούν indelicte circles.
Jenna cried. Not from terror. Not from pain. From kindness so overwhelming she didn't know where to put it. The kind of kindness she had never expected to touch her life. The kind she wasn't sure she deserved. That night, after the girls fell asleep in their new room, Jenna stepped out onto the front porch. Logan sat on the steps watching the sky bleed into rose and gold. When he saw her, he reached into his pocket and placed a small velvet box on the table beside him. He didn't open it. He didn't kneel. He didn't demand. This isn't an answer, he said quietly. It's a question. His voice trembled just enough to betray that he cared. Do you want this, us? Not because you owe me. Not because of anything I've done. Only if you choose it. Freely. Jenna looked at the box, then at him, then at the soft glow behind the blue door where her daughters slept safe. She stepped closer. I'm not choosing a miracle, she whispered. I'm choosing the man who stopped on that highway. Then she said the word she thought she would never say again. Yes. 2 high-pitched squeals pierced the air. Mommy said yes. Emma and Chloe burst onto the porch, bunnies clutched tight, eyes shining. Jenna laughed through her tears. Logan slipped an arm gently around her shoulders. For the first time in her life, Jenna Carter stood not in fear and not in mere survival, but in a future she chose. A future with safety, with warmth, with a home no one could take away. A future built not on running but on love. The life she had always deserved.